It's a good day to brew, baby. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millzy, back with Hometown Commander, and we're back per our usual arrangement for another episode of Millzy Brews, where we brew a deck together. Man, I am so excited. If you're a new viewer to the channel, this video is a little bit monumentous because it is my first time showing my face on the face cam. Welcome, viewers. I'm very excited to add there's a little more piece to the videos you guys see in my ugly mug, but getting to see there's a real person behind this, there's a real guy behind this, enjoying and making this content. But we are here today for our first Jumpstart 2022 brew episode. And we're here for Kibo, Uktabi Prince. This is a card that I have to admit, the first time I saw it, I thought was kind of interesting, right? We really haven't gotten, many monkey or ape commanders. Sure, we have Koglan. Kogla fits an interesting spot in mono green. And we have Ragavan, of course, the pirate himself, gallivanting upon modern and that kind of thing. But we haven't really gotten, I think, a really interesting, flavorful monkey or ape commander. And I think Kibo's really interesting because not only does it kind of bring the tribe together, the apes and the monkeys together, and allow you to play them as a group, I think it also kind of plays around in this fun space. Let's read it. Kibo, Uktabi Prince, 2 and a green for a 2/2. Each player creates a colorless artifact creature token named Banana. With tap, sacrifice this artifact, add red or green. You gain 2 life. Middle ability says whenever an artifact an opponent controls is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control that's an ape or monkey. And then whenever Kibo attacks, defending player sacrifices an artifact. So we've got a lot of really fun stuff here, right? We have a way to give everyone these kind of pseudo treasures, although they're only for green and red, and then gaining 2 life. We have a way to kind of give us a bonus for when our opponents use those bananas or treasures or clues, right, or whatever else they're using. And then the bottom ability allows us to kind of hopefully start picking away at our opponent's bananas. Now, the kind of funny thing is if Kibo attacks, of course, and we make our opponent sacrifice an artifact and they just sack the banana in response, if that's the only one, we still get the middle ability either way, right? I like that they stapled an option for us to get a trigger, right, on Kibo attacking. It's not just waiting for our opponents to use the bananas to get that ability, because remember, those bananas gain 2 life, right? They're not free. Our opponents are still getting benefit off of it. So I like that we are kind of giving a little bit of a bonus to ourselves. So we're playing nearly complete ape and monkey tribal. We'll talk about the one creature that's not a monkey or ape when we get up there. First, we're going to look at the mana base. Pretty standard mana base. We're running a lot of duels. I'm playing a few more Mountain Forest duels this time because I'm trying to play a teeny bit more ramp. A lot of our monkeys, some of our monkeys and apes are 1 or 2 mana, but some of our monkeys and apes are kind of higher up on the CMC train. So I kind of want to get us some more ramp in the mid game, just in case that's what we want to do. So we're running 34, and then we're running There Is a Saga for a couple artifacts that we'll talk about in a second. Let's get to the enchantments. This enchantment suite should look pretty common if you play Gruul decks, red-green decks. Let's go through a few highlights. I think the obvious highlight is Invigorating Hot Spring from Neon Dynasty. We get to see, of course, it fits the flavor so well. We have a monkey on the art for this card, but I also just think it fits really well. Where we want to be giving all of our monkeys and apes +1/+1 counters, this gives them all haste, which is going to be great because then they can hopefully, just come out and deal more damage. I like this because then it allows us to spread some +1/+1 counters around. And when we start dealing with, proliferating or anything like that, if you want to deal more into it, I don't have as much proliferating, but if that's something you want to go into, the cool part is you can use Invigorating Hot Springs to kind of pass those counters around. Rhythm of the Wild just feels really good in this deck, gives all of our monkeys and apes coming in with either a +1/+1 counter or haste. I think most of the time we just get that counter started on them, get that get that go tall plan going and getting ready to go. Playing the Utopia Sprawl and the Wild Growth for mana ramp. We're playing Hardened Scales, of course, to hopefully double those +1/+1 counters go on them. Quest for Renewal seems kind of cool since we're going to hopefully be tapping Kibo to give everyone the bananas. All we need to do is tap Kibo 4 times or attack with creatures as well. And then Quest for Renewal allows us to untap everything on everyone's turn. This could allow us to tap Kibo more to give out more bananas, or generally do other things if that's what we want to do. We're playing Curse of Opulence just because it's going to pass some gold around, which should hopefully get us some more triggers. I think the big thing with this deck that we're going to have to figure out is how much extra value are we willing to give our opponents and be okay with in order for us to get all those +1/+1 counters. If we're okay with handing our opponents 8 or 10 mana over the course of a game, if we think we can rectify it and make our monkeys and apes massive, well, then I think we don't really care, right? But I think it's going to come down to where your threat level is with how much you're willing to give them. Viridian Rebel seems interesting. Whenever an artifact is put in the opponent's graveyard from the battlefield, you can draw a card. This is going to kind of give us some added value with either punishing treasure or clue decks already, which is this. I think this deck's going to do a great job at. Or Viridian Rebel is going to allow us to draw off of that. Beastmaster Ascension is just here so that once we get a board tall enough, we can start attacking and just making our opponents really hurt for it. And then Agasol and Bear Umbra are here with Sword and Feast and Famine to help us punch through eventually. Kibo needs to probably attack eventually. Our board needs to attack eventually. And I think these three cards, both Sword of Feast and Famine and Bear Umbra, both combo with Agasol as soon as you have enough lands. So the goal here is to just start punching through for good damage, making it us not just have tall creatures, but tall creatures that our opponents have to block. Coming into the artifacts, we have a good mix of mana and I would say untappers. So we have the Arcane Signet, you have the Soul Ring, you have the Henge. These are your mana pieces. Patriarchal Seal. Patriarchal Seal also taps for mana, but it also can untap Kibo. 1,000-Year Elixir can untap Kibo. The cool part about 1,000-Year Elixir is we could just untap another creature if we attack with it and want to block with it. But Patriarchal Seal, I think, is more for Kibo than it is for anything else. Lightning Greaves, Swift Boots, just down there to when we get the Koglas and those kind of things down, we want to be able to do things with them quickly. Maskwood Nexus is just going to make everything in our deck monkeys or apes anyway. Like I said, there's only one card in the deck that isn't a monkey or ape, but I kind of like the idea of making some tokens if we have the extra mana from the bananas or things like that. So I think Maskwood Nexus does a lot of good there. And then Liquid Metal Torque seems interesting because when Kibo attacks, we have to make our opponents sacrifice an artifact. Well, if our opponent has no artifacts, we could respond with Liquid Metal Torque, make one of their non-land permanents an artifact, and then they would have to sacrifice it if they don't have anything else. So this seems kind of interesting. The other thing I kind of like about Liquid Metal Torque is if our opponent, let's say, moves to try to sacrifice something or something needs to die in combat to benefit our opponents, we could Liquid Metal Torque it to be an artifact, and then Kibo will see it and buff our entire board. So there's plenty of I think there's going to be plenty of little plays we can make with Liquid Metal Torque to gain some added value over time. Ozolith's going to be there to collect those +1/+1 counters, put them back on our creatures, make them bigger. Henge, of course, one of the best green cards in Commander. This is going to continue to make all of our monkeys bigger and apes bigger. And the cool part here is that we're going to draw a card and get +1/+1 when they come in. And then Sword of Truth and Justice, giving that creature a counter and then proliferating. So hopefully we're moving the whole board up in power. Coming up into the spells instance, we're not running too many. Beast Within can hit anything. Heroic Intervention and Silk Guard are there to protect our board. I feel like the downside we're going to have with this tribe is that a lot of our creatures just don't have a lot of inherent value on their own. And when the ones that do, Kogla, Grun, Kibo, we really want to protect them when we can protect them. So I think Heroic Intervention and Silk Guard become really important. Silk Guard's really cool because we can just pay 1 green for Silk Guard as long as all of our creatures already have +1/+1 counters on them and give our whole board hexproof if needed. I see Silk Guard coming in a lot less handy than Heroic Intervention, but I think it's always good to have that secondary piece of protection if you need it. And then Chaos Warp just for some removal. We're not playing in a color combination of a ton of unconditional removal like you get in white and black. So I feel like Chaos Warp does a good job at kind of dealing with the things that we can't deal with. Coming up into the sorceries, we see a good split here between mana and not mana. pardon me, playing a bunch of green ramp. The extra dual type lands are in here for Sky Shroud Claim. I feel like it just helps. It's going to help us get those dual lands, and we don't mind paying a little bit extra to make sure we get the good ramp. Got one board wipe in Blasphemous Act. I feel like we should probably make room for another one, but I think for the moment, one's probably okay. I'd like to see this deck push wide and start doing our board wiping via combat, getting our advantage via combat, rather than running away in that sense. But I kind of like Brotherhood's End and Vandal Blast as a way to give our opponents all the bananas, drop a Vandal Blast or drop a Brotherhood's End and blow up all of them and force our opponents to, take the choice of do you sack them and lose the mana, or do you just let them die? But the good part about Vandal Blast and Brotherhood's End is it hits the clues, it hits the treasures, it hits everything. And so our hope here is that, Vandal Blast will, Brotherhood's only hit anything 3 or less, but it takes care of most of our opponent's artifacts. It's going to help them to have to make that call. And then with Kibo out, we're just going to start stacking the power up on our entire board. And then we have Triumph for the Hordes just as another finisher, help us end out the game once our board gets nice and tall. All right, getting into the creatures, we just have a lot of monkeys and apes to choose from. I think the first big one's going to be you don't have to play Ragavan if you don't want to. It's just in there because it's a monkey. I think in a lot of ways Ragavan's not worth the price for this deck because I don't think Ragavan adds any inherent value. I think that's funny to say, but the truth is I don't think Ragavan adds the same value in regular Commander as Ragavan does in CDH or Modern. So Ragavan's not needed. It's just in the list because it's a monkey, and of course we wanted every monkey and ape we could in this list. Big standouts: Silverback Elder, Kogla, Grun, Realm Walker, which is cool, allows us to get an extra hand there. Adaptive Automaton and Bloodline Pretender seem kind of cool. They're both changelings, so they're going to come down as either, help kind of buff the board up. Metallic Mimic, of course, we're going to come down and pick one or the other. The deck does inherently have more apes than monkeys, so I think most of the time we're going to pick ape, but I think if you can get them plus a Maskwood Nexus, or you can make your choice earlier rather than later, I think it's easier to make that call and stick with it. The only non-monkey or ape creature we have in the deck is Kadama of the Westry, and the reason is because it's going to give all of our modified creatures trample. It's going to make all of those creatures with +1/+1 counters on them have trample. It's going to get our board going, and then it's going to help us ramp, because every time a modified creature deals damage to a player, we can go get a basic land, and hopefully this is just going to bring us all the rest of our basic lands out of our deck. Hit that spike in mana and start having fun. Kogla, going to do a lot of good when it comes down, but then every time it attacks, we destroy target artifact or enchantment, defending player control. So that's going to help us pick off those other artifacts that maybe they won't want to sacrifice in response. Maybe instead of going after a treasure, we can go after, some different things with Kogla. Tarian Mauler seems pretty cool on this deck. It's just going to get big, and hopefully our opponents can't deal with it. We can get good value out of it. Got stuff like Simian Slaying just in here as some cute stuff. Simian Simulacrum seems interesting. From Brothers War, comes in and puts counters on a creature you control, and then you can actually unearth it back, which is pretty cool depending on what kind of some game plans you're playing with. But I think my favorite of the creatures as far as the monkeys and apes go are Kogla, Silverback Elder, Grun, and the kind of shapeshifters that just boost our tribe as we kind of go wide. So I hope you guys enjoyed my deck list for Kibo Uktabi Prince. I don't think this is a deck that I'm going to try. I don't think there's anything wrong with a deck style like this. I just think if I was going to play +1/+1 counters, I think there's better commanders for that. Maybe I would recommend looking into Minskin Boo or Chishiro from the Neon Dynasty set, or Halan and Elena, or if you want to go more into the tribes like my buddy Brian does, you can use Grumgully to go into goblins if that's something you want to do. There's plenty of other +1/+1 counter commanders out there that I think that are worth considering. But at least for Uktabi, I think the deck looks pretty, or Kibo, Uktabi Prince, I think the deck looks pretty fun. It's something that I think is worth messing around with if you want to have a good time. I was privileged enough to, the last time I was at the shop, I got a copy of Kibo as a promo, which I thought was pretty cool. I've kept it because I didn't know if it was something I wanted to build around. Maybe the deck hits the the local play group maybe once or twice just to see how it runs. But I hope you guys enjoy it. Deck list is going to be down in the description. Like, comment, let me know what you think about the deck, and I will catch you guys next time.